Hello, this is Gavin Patterson from Studio 1790, and today we're going to do a video on basically my computer setup. I'm going to explain to you why I use PC over Mac and all that good stuff. So it kind of starts back in 2011, and I decided to build my own recording setup. And I was buying microphones and USB interfaces and preamps and cables and mic stands and you name it. Yeah, all that stuff, desks and screens and all sorts of stuff. So I just decided I can get a laptop, a fairly beefy laptop, and go with that. And I was able to get a PC. It was an HP laptop actually, at the time. Like 12 years ago, and it was more bang for buck than a Mac. And I knew how to use PC, I knew how to use Windows. It had more processing power, I had a bigger hard drive and a bigger screen than the equivalent Mac for the same price. So I thought, why get a Mac? So I got PC and Cubase, and I had heard that Cubase ran really well on Windows, but at the time, now it's, I don't know, they're probably just as good. So I got a PC, but 3 PCs later, I'm still on PC. I now have a tower. I've went through two laptops. I don't know why I thought buying another laptop was a good idea. I had a laptop from 2011 till 2015, and then I bought another HP laptop, and it didn't last me as long. It started to slow up. It was Windows 8, which was horrible. Hated it, but it did the job for a while, but I was starting to hit a wall with processing. So I bought a custom-made PC from PC Specialist. It's a online PC builder website thing based down in England, I think. So yeah, I'm going to open up the desktop here. So this is the task manager. I'm just going to show you the different stats, relevant stats of the PC. So if you look up in the top right here, I can't highlight it, so you'll just have to look. It's the Intel Core i7 8700K CPU. Base clock 3.7 gigahertz. If this is all a foreign language to you, basically it's one of the highest spec processors of the time. So that's 2018 it came out. So that's the 8700K. It's I think there was maybe one or two higher than that at the time. And it's got a boost. You can boost the clock. I'll just move my face out of the way. Here we go. So if you look down the bottom here, it's being boosted right now. I'm overclocking to 4.27 gigahertz-ish, roughly. So this is it's a 6-core processor. That means that, well, if you look on the screen here, there's lots of boxes here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's 12 divided by 2 is 6. So it means that the CPU can do basically 6 things at once. Logical processor's 12. So it means that it can perform multiple things at the same time. It's multi-core processing, which came in like, I don't know, like 2003 or something, 2001. Most modern CPUs are multi-core. So this is a multi-core. Most CPUs nowadays and high-end CPUs are a lot higher than 6-core. They're usually like 12-core, 10, 12-core, I think. There might be a few left at 6-core. I haven't actually paid attention really. But this CPU does me really well. I can do like 50, 60, 70 plugins in one session in like a 100-track session. No problem. Runs fine. I have no bother with it. It starts to get into the high end, round about 150 tracks with multiple plugins and lots of stuff happening. It can get a little bit scary. So then I have to just dial things back. And you can do things in Cubase to make processing easier. You can do things like track freezing, which I'll maybe show at one point in another video. So you can freeze the processing so that your CPU doesn't have to work on it anymore. So it's like printing a mix almost. So that's CPU. We'll move on to memory. That's RAM, random access memory. So I have 64 gigs of RAM. Speed is, look down here, 3600 megahertz. So this is, I've actually upgraded this. When I first bought this PC in 2018, it came with 16 gigs of RAM, 3000 megahertz speed. And recently, with doing the YouTube stuff and heavier Cubase sessions, I was finding that export times and rendering times was getting a bit too slow. I've got a lot of work to do. You don't want to be sitting around with your computer sitting for an hour doing exports. You want it to be less than that, obviously. So I looked into it and I was like, I'm not going to get a new CPU yet. Maybe wait another couple of years before I upgrade that. So it's still got a lot of life in it. So I'm just going to leave it. So I went and got some faster RAM. So I got 2 sticks of 32 gig each, adding up to 64. And as you can see, 2 slots of 4. So it's a 4-slot motherboard. So that means I can plug in 4 slots, memory slots. I'm only using 2. So yeah, 64 gigs, which is way more than you would need in a normal situation. But now I'm using, like, on a 4K video that's like an hour long, I'm using like 55 to 60 gigs of RAM just to do that. And where it used to take me an hour to render like a 15-minute video in HD, now it takes me like 20 minutes, 15 minutes with 64 gig of RAM. So it's really, really good, really handy. Cubase as well, doing renders and exports and stuff, it can speed things up a little bit. So that's the 2 crucial things when looking to buy a PC. A PC, Mac, or whatever. So yeah, the most crucial thing is the CPU and the memory. So whenever you're looking to buy a PC, have a look and see what the CPU is saying. How many cores has it got? What's the base speed? What does it boost? How many cores does it have? What generation is it? Is it Intel? Is it AMD? So for those of you who don't know, in Windows you have basically 2 types of processors. You've got a company called AMD and a company called Intel. I chose Intel at the time. Intel's slightly dearer. Although these days AMD seem to be getting a good write-up. They seem to be producing some pretty decent CPUs. They work totally different. I'm not familiar with how they work. But I know when you get an Intel-based system, you can't change it. So you have to rip out your motherboard and everything. Your RAM, I don't know if the RAM is interchangeable, but the motherboard and the CPU have to be Intel-based or AMD-based. You can't interchange them. So if I wanted to get an AMD processor, I would need to go and get a new motherboard. No thanks. I'll just stick with Intel for now. But when you get new memory, and it's quite a fast speed, when you put it in your PC, it will not go to the optimum setting off the bat. You have to go into the BIOS in the computer to enable something like XMP if you're with Intel. AMD have their version as well. So XMP basically means the RAM stick will basically, you will boost it up to its maximum performance, and it will communicate better with the CPU. If you don't do that, you'll be getting this really fast RAM stick, plugging it in, and it'll just be sitting at like the slowest setting, and it's like 2166 or something megahertz. So yeah, it's just a waste of money. So you have to go in and enable that. And the way you do that is when your PC is going to boot up, you just keep spamming the delete key or the F2 key to get into the BIOS. That's if you have like a really high-end motherboard. I think I have an Asus gaming motherboard, because gaming PCs are sort of, they're set up to be high-end machines. So I have a kind of gaming PC. You could call it a gaming PC because it has a fairly decent graphics card as well. But I find it having the good graphics card and a lot of RAM is really good for video editing. So I can get really high frames per second on meters in Cubase as well. That's a thing. When I got my new PC, it had this GPU. So this is it's a Zotac NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1080 Ti graphics card. So it's an 11 gigabyte graphics card. It's a really, really beefy one from 2017 or 18 or something. And I noticed when I got rid of the two laptops, the meters, literally the VU meters in Cubase. So like if I was operating a plugin and I would see like inputs and outputs and, you know, gain reduction stuff and compressors and different needles, they were dead jumpy, like they were like sticky. And I never really thought much about that. They were delayed all the time. When I got this PC, they were all dead fluid, as if they were a real needle. And I had a better idea of what the meters were doing. I never even thought that would be a thing. But that's the graphics card that's doing that. It's quite a decent graphics card. So the graphics card is not important for Cubase. It really isn't, unless you want super smooth meters. But that was just a happy byproduct, because I was wanting a graphics card for like intensive video processing, things like that. So yeah, I would focus on CPU and memory, and of course go back into I'll bring my face back in just a little bit. Yeah. So other than memory and CPU, you want a fast hard drive, or solid state drive in this case. So my C drive, which is this here, the C drive is what Cubase and the Raven and all my plugins are saved onto, and it's a solid state drive. It's a Samsung SSD solid state drive, 850 EVO. So it's a little bit older now, it's a couple of years old, but it's still really fast, still really like it. Windows is installed on it, so it's super fast startup. It's great. My Cubase drive, so Cubase itself, the program, is installed on a solid state drive. That means Cubase will run really fast. But when I hit record, the audio that I'm recording from the microphones does not go there. It goes to an external hard drive here, my G drive. I think it's the G drive. This is a 5 terabyte hard drive, spinning disk, just an old-fashioned hard drive. It's pretty slow, but the write speeds are quite fast. I think the write speeds might be faster than a solid state. I could be wrong about that. Probably wrong, but still, it's better for me because a 5 terabyte solid state drive is an absolute enormous amount of money at the moment. They might come down in price, but when I was building this PC in 2018, the idea of getting a 5 terabyte solid state drive was like, nah. It could have cost me like $2,000 at the time. No. So I've got a couple of Seagates just sitting on the floor, 5 terabytes. And I think at the time, were like £200. That's fine. I can afford that. And I'll put all my Cubase stuff on there. And I never really run into trouble with it. The only time I ever run into trouble with maybe hard drive lag or too much, I need more bandwidth, basically. When I'm recording more than 24 tracks, what happens sometimes is it starts to stutter because the hard drive's like, too much, can't do it. But that rarely happens because, as some of you might know if you watch some of my other videos, this is a 24-track recording studio, so I don't really record any more than 24 tracks. But in if I did have to record more than 24 tracks, what I would do is I would set the session up to record into the solid state drive because it's faster. And then once I'm done, because it's only a 500 gig solid state drive, so that's really small compared to 5 terabytes. So once I'm done, I can move it all back into the hard drive at a later date. But I never have to do that because I've only got 24 tracks. And the hard drive can record 24 tracks at the same time, no problem. I've never had any issues with it. Doesn't seem to bother me. So I'm just going to keep it that way, keep it the same. And it's good to have an external hard drive as well, because it means if I have a laptop with Cubase on it, I can just grab my hard drive, and then I've got all my sessions all in an external hard drive. So I don't have to be anchored to just one PC all the time. If I want to be mobile, I can take a laptop and go and record somewhere, and it's no problem. So yeah, that's kind of everything. If you're building a PC or buying a PC, think about what you're going to do with it. So if it's for home demos and recordings, you probably don't need anything close to being this high end. You want to get maybe a CPU that's decent enough that it'll do, 4 tracks, say. It'll record 4 tracks at any one time. If you're doing recordings in your bedroom, you'll probably have like a 2-track USB interface, maybe 4. You don't really need any more than that for a bedroom. And to record that much, your CPU doesn't need to be that beefy. An i7 would be nice, but I mean, you get some old i7s that are really slow nowadays. I'm not clued up on what the numbers are at the moment, but I think we're on the 12th generation of i7s, or Intel in general. I think this is an 8th generation, if I'm not mistaken, 8th or 9th. Not sure. It's the 8700K. So 2018 does me well, and I think you can actually pick up that CPU now for like £300-400 if you're looking to upgrade a system and you have the right motherboard. If you're buying a laptop because you prefer to be mobile, there are loads of laptops now. If you need any advice, just send me a message or put a comment in this video and I'll see if I can help you. If it's to do with Macs, I have absolutely no idea what Macs are and what they do, and how. I don't even know if you can get into them to upgrade them. So the thing I like about the PC setup, is I wanted more RAM. So I just went on the internet, typed in more RAM, and I got more RAM. And I just plugged it in. It was simple. I'd like open the case up. Oh, there's the RAM sticks. Out. New ones in. Go into the BIOS. Enable the fastest setting. Go. Done. Easy. I don't think you can do that with a Mac, as far as I'm aware, because it's all like Apple software or whatever. So that's the upside of having a PC. You can get easy access to the inside. I've also installed solid state drives inside it. I've bought like an extra solid state drive and put it in the PC, and it took like an hour to put in, half an hour. And I've got, I think it was a J drive. Nope. My H drive. It's a terabyte. Yeah, I got a terabyte of solid state drive. A terabyte extra for solid state, really fast, and I could just order it online, stick it in, and no bother. I don't know. Just, you might not want to put up with all the like Windows Cortana notifications and all the usual Windows problems, like upgrading to Windows 11. Just, that sounds like a headache right now. I'm probably going to wait like a year before I do that, because all my software is like Windows 10. So I could end up upgrading to Windows 11 and it would screw everything up. But I've heard the iOS stuff is the same, like upgrading. So I don't know. I'm on Windows not because I hate Mac. I'm on Windows because that's what I started with, and I like the ability to customize things if if I want to upgrade stuff, I can do that. Not sure you can do that with Mac. I could be wrong, but if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But yeah, if anyone needs any advice in picking a PC to run a DAW recording setup, let me know in the comments section. And as always, if you like the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to get notified, that's a new word, notified on new videos, you can hit the notification bell. And as always,